temporary contract. 31 people were in a 2-week period. That's the salary for those 31 people. Okay.
Welcome to the Tuesday, June 4th, 2024 Tarrant County Commissioners Court meeting. I now call the meeting to order.
Tim O'Hare, County Judge.
Present.
Lori Charles Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Elisa Simmons, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
Manny Ramirez, Commissioner Precinct 4. Constitutes a quorum.
All right, thank you. Today's invocation will be led by Pastor Joshua Scarborough of Countryside Bible. Last night, one of the folks in the sheriff's office, Lieutenant Jose Cortez, was having dinner with his wife and children. Had a medical episode that's very serious. He's in the hospital this morning with no brain activity. So please keep him, he's only 41, please keep Lieutenant Cortez and his family in your prayers. And I have asked Pastor Scarborough to also pray for him this morning. Please rise for the invocation and pledges.
Let's pray. Father in heaven, we praise you for your greatness, that you are majestic and holy and sovereign over the universe. We praise you for your goodness, that you're kind and generous, that you provide salvation to us through Jesus Christ. Pray for anyone here who has not acknowledged their sinfulness and submitted to Christ, that they would even be saved today. I pray that you would bless the men and women in our local government, especially those in this meeting today, that they would work hard to administer their duties in a way that reflects you, your justice, your kindness, your compassion, and integrity. Pray that we the people would respect and honor the rightful government that you've put over us for our good and for your glory. We know that you, God, are sovereign alone over all things. We can trust in you. Nothing surprises you. We can submit to your rule and authority. Pray that we would conduct ourselves appropriately. God, this morning we pray especially for Lieutenant Cortez. And we pray that you would be kind to him, that you would bring miraculous healing in his body, that you would restore him completely. But God, we don't know the future. Only you know the future. And we pray that whatever your plan and good plan is for him and his family, that you would bring them peace and comfort, even today in this difficult situation. We pray for the doctors and nurses caring for him, that they would care with skill and excellence and do everything they can in their power. And we pray again that you would just be kind to him and his family. We thank you for all these things this morning. We ask in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now to the Texas flag.
On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. You may be seated. Agenda announcements.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. Just a few announcements this morning. Number one, F1 for the Criminal District Attorney. We're going to hold that item until after closed. We'll be receiving a briefing and closed on that one. Item G2, Facilities Management, has asked that we hold that item until a later meeting. Under Reports and Business, item A4.
Is G2 on consent?
G2 was on consent, correct. We're holding that item for a later meeting. Under Reports and Business, under the Administrator sections, items A4 and A5 are being pulled from consent due to audience participation, as well as E1 is also being pulled for audience participation. And just one final note, under Purchasing L14, there is an updated court communication in your red folders. That's all I have, sir.
A4 and A5 are consent pulled due to speakers, and then what was the next one?
E1 is Criminal Courts Administration.
E1.
Yes, sir.
Which is not consent, or is it?
It is consent. We're pulling it from consent due to audience participation.
Gotcha.
It was consent. That's all I have, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All All right, do we have any announcements from the court members? All right, seeing none, we will move to the proclamations, resolutions, and presentations section. It is that time again for employee recognition. And I know we have many people here celebrating their anniversaries. And I'm going to talk about them as soon as I find this. So today's reception, after we recognize all of you, will be on the 4th floor, room 403, instead of behind here as we do frequently, so room 403. I'm going to ask all of our 5-year employees to stand as I call your name. The first is Mina Alduri, Narasimha Bakhtula, Ashley Chavez, David Collins, Marquise Garcia, Chandler Jones, that's a cool name, Cynthia King, Razneet Kumar, Nestor LaSalle Santiago, Christine Lawler, Maria Markham, Eric Martinez, Joseph Mathis, Jeanette Mondragon, Joe Munoz Jr., Zanya Narvaez Abrego, Julie Nichols, Sabrina Quintanilla, Elizabeth Ramirez, Allison Renner, Kristen Sanders, and Annie Vu. Thank you all very much for your 5 years. We appreciate you. All right, next we have our 10-year employees. Please stand as I call your name. Sean Brewer, Kenneth Devers, William Dubon, Cindy Franco, Jennifer Gabbert, Trilisha Gardner, Courtney Holcomb, William Johnson, Aria McCall, Charlethea Morrison, Barbara Munoz, Tamisha Parks, Michelle Rundles, Bhavisha Shah, Lauren Smith, Shatia Smith, Hector Viesca, Carlos Wilson Sr., and Christy Young. Thank you all very much for your 10 years of service. We appreciate you. All right, now for our 15-year employees. Please stand as I call your name. Crystal Albert, Aaron Kofer, Ryan Down, Dustin Gerald, Rhonda Little, Polly Maxwell, Alexander Pruitt, Prasant Princely. I can hear my own name saying something from 5 seconds ago. Jessica Tovar, Kimberly Wesley, and Lee Worth. Thank you all very much for 15 years. We appreciate you. All right, now for our 20-year employees. Please stand as I call your name. Felice Johnson, Julie Martinez, Aaron Perez, Troy Shores, Monica Tipton, and Rachel Wright. Thank you all for 20 years. All right, now we have our 25-year employees. I'm going to ask you all to stand individually. First up is Penny Bunch. Where are you, Penny? Hello, Penny. How are you? 25 years with the Sheriff's Office, Deputy Bunch. Born in Fort Worth, went to high school at Arlington Heights. One daughter. Something that no one knows about her, she collects old hand-stitched quilts. What she likes to do for fun, she likes nerdy stuff like digging for crystals or gems, her words, not mine. Other job titles she's had with the county: corrections officer, jailer. Most memorable moment here at the county was when got her peace officer license. What she likes most is her family, spending time with them, and she has 9 grandchildren. So thank you very much, Deputy Bunch. We appreciate you for 25 years. Next, we have Robert Rundles. Is Robert here with us? Hi, Robert. How are you, sir? Deputy Rundles, 25 years, works at Constable Precinct 2, born in Dallas. Went to Carter High School. Trying to guess your age. Were you there in 88? No, that's a good year. Went to college at UTA and Tarrant County College. A fact that no one knows about him, he likes to paint and to read books. What he likes to do for fun, he likes to travel and take road trips with his family. He's been with the county. He was a jailer for 5 years, a bailiff for 1 year, a criminal warrant deputy for 6 years, spent 6 years as a patrol sergeant and 1 year as a judicial sergeant. What he likes most about his employment with Tarrant County is that it has allowed him to be a provider to his family and to live a quiet, peaceful life. And we thank you very much, sir, for your 25 years. All right, next we have, is Valerie Allen here? Which I don't think Valerie's coming, but she's with the 297th District Court, been with us 25 years. If you're listening or watching, Valerie, thank you very much for your 25 years of dedicated service to Tarrant County. All right, next we have Jennifer Hooks. Is Jennifer here? Hi, Jennifer. Been with us also 25 years. Her job title is Criminal Floor Manager. She was born in Hartford City, Indiana, Hoosier, and went to high school at Richland. She has 4 children, and what she likes to do for fun, swimming and watching her boys play baseball. Her boys with 17, 14, and 8. She has also been in reception and booking in the jail. She did that for 3 years. She was promoted to the bond desk, which she did for 12 years, and then transferred to the courts, where she's been for 10. Her most memorable moment was getting stuck in the elevator for 45 minutes her first day of work. Wow. Well, you had no place to go but up. No pun intended. What she likes is that even though she's been here a good long while, there's always something else to learn and improve on. Jennifer, thank you so much for your 25 years. We appreciate you. All right, is Cynthia Hicks here? All right, hi Cynthia, how are you? Good, so I don't have a form for you, but you are with the county clerk's office. You've been with us 25 years, and we are very grateful for your 25 years of service to Tarrant County. Thank you. Ed Heidesek. Mr. Ed, where are you? 25 years with us, Precinct 3 Equipment Maintenance Supervisor. You might know him.
And a great cook. And an even better mechanic.
25 years with us, Precinct 3 Equipment Maintenance Supervisor, born in Haltom City, went to Haltom High School, spent 4 years at Tarrant County Junior College, got his associate's degree in automotive technology and small engines, 3 children, 3 grandchildren. He's been a member of the Knights of Columbus for 48 years, and he is a 4th degree Knight. What he likes to do for fun, smoke barbecue, cook, help friends and family. He's active in his church, and he's known Commissioner Fickus and Judge Whitley a very long time and participated in United Way events, and then home for Precinct 3 events. I noticed a theme here. The best times cooking was with the Knights of Columbus for over 20 years, cooking for Special Olympics at UTA in Arlington on Memorial Day weekend. They would cook lunch for 1,500 people on Friday and Saturday until the Special Olympics moved their annual event to San Antonio. But he continues to help with Special Olympics and local events. He's also been a mechanic of heavy road equipment. His most memorable moment, the birth of his children and grandchildren. What he likes the most, after 23 years maintaining and running a cemetery, he found himself looking for a job took the job at the county. You've worked for 48 years. You don't look old enough to work that long. After 23 years maintaining and running a cemetery, he was looking for a job, took the job at the county for temp work until he could find a job he was actually looking for. And it's 25 years of temp work, I guess. Maybe you'll find something new. He has enjoyed his entire time here. It is like family to him. He's served under 3 judges and 2 commissioners. And he told Gary, Commissioner Fickus, that he would wait and retire in December with him. He couldn't have asked for a better career. And when he retires, he will continue to take care of his wife, who has a disability after a surgery gone bad 10 years ago. We'll continue to work with the Knights of Columbus and church with their good deeds. He also volunteers and manages the church cemetery for the last 25 years and will continue to do so. You seem like a fantastic guy. Thank you, Mr. Ed, for your 25 years of service to Tarrant County. All right, Dorinda Cummings. Dorinda, where are you? Hi, Dorinda, how are you? So they told me that you are the glue that holds the Precinct 4 maintenance team together. 25 years, you're now the business manager. You're born in McKinney. She graduated from Azle High School. She has 2 daughters. One is a graduate, Elisa is a graduate of Baylor and an attorney, and then Brittany is a graduate from OU, and she's a nurse practitioner. She has 3 grandchildren ranging from ages 3 to 16. In fact, no one knows about her. She has a real estate license. She likes to travel for fun. Other job titles in the county, she has actually been in this same position for all 25 years she's been here. She took the position temporarily while an employee was out on medical leave and is still here today. Her most memorable moment, 9/11. Precinct 4 is in the flight path of the Joint Reserve Base in Meacham Airport. They hear planes all day long. On 9/11, you only heard fighter jets, which was pretty unsettling. And what she likes the most, she has great coworkers who are always eager to help, and it's like having an extended family. Dorinda, thank you for your 25 years of service, Precinct 4. All right, Yvette, where are you? Yvette Collins. There you are. How are you today?
I'm good.
Good. Yvette has been with us 30 years, and she started in accounts payable, which at that time was in purchasing. She now works in the auditor's office, administrative assistant 3, born in Fort Worth, graduated from Western Hills High School, graduated from UTA with a BBA. She has one son who graduated from Texas Tech, his undergrad, and he has a master's from Tech in molecular pathology. This is really cool. Is there anybody in here who has ever heard of Bob Trick Woods? Anybody? So this is many years ago, but her dad, Bob Trick Woods, played for the Harlem Globetrotters. Pretty cool. Something no one knows about her, she would like to write an inspirational book. And am I right that Marcus Haynes, you know him very well. I think a lot of people would know Marcus Haynes. He was kind of the star of the Globetrotters at that time, and he recruited your dad to join another team when he left the Harlem Globetrotters, right? Yeah, pretty cool. What she likes to do for fun, just share happy moments with family and friends. She's also been an accounts payable clerk. Most memorable moment, there are many, but one that stands out is the reaction of fellow co-workers when bats were flying around the auditor's office. What she likes the most, she has gained a wealth of knowledge and met some very interesting people. She's also very thankful for the wonderful friendship she has gained while working here. She is an active member of Eastland Church of Christ, and she is just a spectacular asset to Tarrant County, and thank you so much for your 30 years of service to us. Okay, Frankie McGill is with the Sheriff's Office. Frankie is not able to be here today, but has been with us for 30 years, so let's please give a warm thank you and appreciation to Frankie. Is Carmen Garza here? Carmen, are you with us? Okay. So Carmen has been with us 30 years. Carmen's a legal assistant, born in Fort Worth, graduated from Trimble Tech. She has one child. In fact, no one knows about her. If you know, you know. If not, you're not supposed to know. What she likes to do for fun, spend time with her husband, Moses, and her son, Maddox, shop and read. In 1994, she was the receptionist for the intake division in the DA's office for less than 30 days. She was then promoted to legal secretary in the intake division. Her most memorable moments, working off-site at the Fort Worth PD facility and transitioning from paper case filings to electronic case filings. She enjoys coming to work and working with a great group of talented people. Let's give a big round of applause to Carmen Garza for 30 years. All right, also not attending, Leslie Stewart from Transportation. Leslie's been with us 30 years. Let's give Leslie a big thank you for 30 years of service. And last but not least, also can't be here today, David Pena, who is in the Deputy Warrant Division. David is our only 35-year anniversary today. He was born in Fort Worth, graduated from Arlington Heights High School, did some college at Tarrant County College, has 2 kids. He likes to hunt, fish, cook barbecue, and spend time with his family. He's also been a peer support team member with the county. His most memorable moments are just those times when he helps others that just need someone to talk to. He is also retiring on July 31st after 35 years. He will miss his job and lots of the people that he works with. He's worked in the Warrant Division for the past 28 years. He has been involved in a lot of arrests. There have been several people that have helped him, lots of good people covering him, too many to think. It's been fun and very challenging at times. And David, enjoy your retirement next month, and thank you very much for your 35 years of service. All right, we have a motion to receive and file employee recognition. I'll make that.
Second.
We have a second. Please cast your votes. All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you all very much. One more big round of applause for all our employees. And if you would like to go to the reception, feel free to get up and do so now, room 403 on the 4th floor. Wilder leading the way as usual. Did you watch that side of the game last night?
I have it DVR'd. I haven't watched it yet.
Do you know what happened?
Yes, I do.
Do you know how it happened?
No.
Pretty wild. Yeah. All right, you have the next one. National Blood Donor Day.
Okay.
All right, to continue the meeting, our next agenda item is a proclamation for National Blood Donor Day. Commissioner Fickus.
Well, we're very happy to participate in National Blood Donor Day. It's something that I know that Tarrant County has always taken very seriously, and we always have a number of people that are donating, and we greatly appreciate all they do. Whereas June 14th, 2024 is National Blood Donor Day, recognizing Americans who volunteer with dedication, selflessness, and compassion, and those who donate blood to help patients in urgent need of life-saving transfusions. And whereas Carter Blood Care originated in Tarrant County in 1951, serving citizens throughout the Fort Worth metro area, as well as over 50 counties across Texas. As one of our state's largest and leading nonprofit community blood centers, though the collection, testing, storage, and distribution of more than 440,000 units of blood products each year. And whereas the mission of Carter Blood Care is to save lives by making transfusions possible, is itself made possible through the support of Tarrant County blood donors. And whereas Tarrant County supports Carter Blood Care life-saving mission and long-time role in our community, now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby proclaim June 14th, 2024 as National Blood Donor Day in Tarrant County, and encourage our citizens to donate blood or volunteer their time with Carter Blood Care. Further, we publicly salute the service of blood donors in our community and in communities nationwide. In witness hereof, we have hereunto set our hand and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 4th day of June, 2024. And I move approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve this item. Any discussion? All right, please cast your votes. All right, passes unanimously. He's going to come down for pictures, and then if you'd like to say a few words, you're welcome to do so.
Okay. I was on the elevator with you.
You were.
No.
Okay.
We got a couple of more.
Thank you, Commissioner, for this recognition and for your service to the citizens of Tarrant County for supporting Carter Blood Care's mission to save lives by making transfusion possible. June 14th, World Blood Donor Day, raises awareness of the importance of blood donors in our community. And in fact, their help is needed every day because the need for blood is nonstop. Blood donors help children across Tarrant County who are fighting cancer and sickle cell anemia, older adults with health issues, mothers going through difficult deliveries, and open heart surgery and organ transplant patients. It takes just 1 hour to donate blood and give back to your community. I encourage everyone to join Tarrant County's blood drive on Friday, June 7th from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. You can learn more about blood donation by visiting carterbloodcare.org. Thank you again for this wonderful honor, and we are so grateful for your support.
Thank you.
Judge, might I be recognized for a point of personal privilege?
Certainly.
I would like to recognize a very special guest that we have with us this morning. That would be Susan Redford, the Executive Director of the Texas Association of Counties, which represents all 254 counties in the state of Texas. She is officed in Austin and presents a rather aggressive agenda
representing counties before the state legislature, and they do a bunch of other services for counties. Susan, would you come up and have a remark or two?
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners. Commissioner, thank you for recognizing me. On behalf of Texas Association of Counties, I do want to extend a sincere thank you to Tarrant County for your longtime membership. Many members of this court have been very active in our association over our history and instrumental leaders. 2 of you are graduates of our leadership program, which we're always grateful to have you participate in that. I look forward to spending time with you, Judge, and Commissioner Simmons over the next few months, getting to know you better, seeing how we can better serve you and help you. I do want to thank Commissioner Fickus and Commissioner Brooks for your longtime service. You will be dearly missed once you retire at the end of the year and have been longtime friends. So thank you for the recognition. Thank you for your membership and partnership, and I look forward to working with you more.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
All right, next up we come to our consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
So moved.
All
Second.
right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, please cast your votes. All right, the consent agenda is approved unanimously. One of those items on the consent agenda was an agreement to provide road funding for City of Keller. And here in the audience with us today is the Mayor of Keller, Armin Bazzani. Armin, will you stand?
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes. All right, that brings us to the regular agenda, and the first item up on the regular agenda is a public hearing. It's a public hearing to consider placement of no parking signs on Winscott Plover Road in Precinct 1. So the public hearing is now open. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item to consider placement of these no parking signs on Winscott Plover? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
All right, I'll
Second.
second. So we have a second. Motion and a second. Any discussion there? All right, please cast your vote. Passes unanimously. The public hearing is now closed.
Your Honor, are we agendized to approve the stop sign, the no parking sign?
Yes, sir. It's later in the transportation section.
It's in the transportation.
Yes, sir.
section. Okay.
Okay, next up, we have the administrator section. The first item on that is appointment of the public health director.
Morning, court members. It is requested that the Commissioners Court appoint a director of the Tarrant County Public Health Department and Health Authority.
Your Honor, I move to appoint Dr. William Brian Byrd as the Director of Tarrant County Public Health Department and as the Health Authority for Tarrant County to be effective July 1st, 2024. In making this motion, I would note that Dr. Byrd is a competent physician with a reputable professional standing, is legally qualified to practice medicine in Texas, and is a resident of Fort Worth, Texas. He is therefore qualified to serve as Tarrant County's health authority. I would add, as just a personal observation, that I've known Dr. Byrd for a good number of years, have worked with him in his capacity as a member of the Fort Worth City Council. That goes back several years. And I am pleased, I am thrilled, actually, that he sees leadership of our public health authority to be his next adventure in life and a mission to which he will dedicate his time, talents, and service. And I welcome you to the Tarrant County family, Dr. Byrd.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Brooks. We have a motion. I'll second it. Any discussion from the court? All right, seeing none, cast your vote. All right, it passes unanimously. Welcome aboard, Dr. Brian Byrd. Please feel free to say a few words.
Thank you, Judge, and thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Commissioner Brooks, for that moving introduction and motion, and I've thoroughly enjoyed my relationship with you, sir, and working with you in a public capacity. And I want to thank this court for trusting me to lead this very important department. It's an honor to get to do it. It feels good to get back into public service after a few years hiatus. And I've thoroughly enjoyed meeting with each of you in the past 4 or 5 days and hearing your vision for public health, for the department, and your expectations of me. And I take that very, very seriously, and I appreciate your time. We as a department, as soon as I dive in after July 1 and get to know everybody and get to know what we're doing, will continue to be a listening organization. We will listen to all the stakeholders. We'll listen to all the leaders in the health departments around the counties and the leaders in Tarrant County of all the different health organizations. And we will be an organization that works hard, that's conscientious. We will work according to our strategic plan, and we will work very diligently to carry out the mission of the organization. So I want to thank Mr. Chandler Merritt for trusting me on this. I won't let you down, sir. And I would just be in error if I didn't point out that I'm here with my amazing wife, Stephanie, who Commissioner Brooks referred to yesterday as one of his sheroes. And I agree with you, sir. She's an amazing human being, amazing leader in the anti-human trafficking world. So with that, I'll close. Thank you very much, Judge.
Thank you, Dr. Byrd.
Just further, I would like to thank Tom Stallings, our Deputy County Administrator, for serving as the interim Public Health Director and for keeping the ship on course. Thank you, Tom, for all you did.
You beat me to it. You took the words right out of my mouth. So, all right, next up on the agenda is approval of out-of-state travel requests. I'll move to approve these out-of-state travel requests. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, please cast your vote. All right, passes unanimously. Okay, next up is going to be A4, removed from consent. And A4 is looking at approving a letter and unclaimed property capital credits for counties form requesting the Texas Comptroller Public Accounts remits Tarrant County unclaimed funds under Chapter 74 of the Texas Property Code.
Took the words out of my mouth.
Move approval.
Okay, is there anything you're going to say?
Nope.
No, okay, all right, we have a motion to approve. I'll second it. We do have a public speaker. Any questions for Megan before we let her go? All right, read bills.
I withdrew that one, it's number 5 I wanted to speak on.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? All right, seeing none, please cast your vote. All right, this passes unanimously. Next up, also removed from consent, is A5. A5 is adopting an order relating to the issuance of solid waste disposals revenue bonds by the Mission Economic Development Corporation for the benefit of Republic Services, Inc. for certain facilities located in Tarrant County and throughout Texas.
The only additional information to add on this one is that Tarrant County, this does not impose any payment on Tarrant County. We are asked to approve these because the facility is located in Tarrant County. So I just wanted to make that a point of
Do
clarification.
we get a fee for
We
this?
do not get a fee for this at all. This is simply, there are 9 facility locations spread throughout. For this specific facility, they're getting 13 million of the overall 133 million bond allocation. But this does not impose any financial obligation on the county. We don't repay the bonds. We're not responsible for the bonds. We are a pass-through based off of the IRS code. They have to legally require our approval prior to the issuance of the bonds. It gets packaged up and goes to the Attorney General's office for consideration after all the approvals have been sought.
Okay. All right, any questions for Megan?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Questions?
Yes, I have a bunch of questions, but I called Megan at about 6:15 this morning. My concern is process. So I saw this agendized and didn't have any details about it. And so we've got to do better, Chandler. I've talked about this before. I've got to be briefed on this stuff. I would guess that Commissioners Brooks and Fickus are probably old hats at something like this. But just to see anything with millions attached to it.
Anything with what?
Millions.
Millions. Okay.
On the agenda. I need to be briefed on it. So hopefully we will get to a point where I'm not saying this over and over again. So I still do have a lot of questions, and I expect you guys to show up at my office to take those questions.
Yes, ma'am. And just as Megan and I have already talked this morning about specifically with debt issuance items that have millions of dollars attached to it, we will be sure that every time, no matter what going forward, we will make an appointment with your office to review these when you come in.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Megan? All right, we do have some speakers signed up for this. First is Reed Bills. Next is Lon Burnham.
My name is Reed Bills, and I'm asking you to pull this item from the agenda. There has been insufficient notice and information provided on this high-dollar proposal, making a decision at this time impossible.
All right, following Mr. Burnham, we have Daniel Bennett.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to remind you of a brief story I told you before. Many decades ago, I helped set up the Common Cause office here in Texas. It was a public interest advocacy group, and they were
what
involved.
office?
Common Cause,
Common Cause.
The state office in Austin, and it was set up to help usher in good public policy initiatives by the legislature, open meetings requirements, public notice requirements. And while I'm sure it was just a bureaucratic mistake, this item was not properly posted for the public hearing. And in fact, the video conference of April 12th, no one actually participated or attended. And if for no other reason, this should be pulled from the agenda because it may be illegal, because it did not comply with the open meetings requirement, and you need to review the application. It is a big dollar item that deserves to have the questions answered that Commissioner Simmons is raising. Thank you.
Thank you. Following Mr. Bennett is Doreen Geiger.
Daniel Bennett, White Settlement. Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. I'm going to read the advertisement that was publicly put out there for consideration. And it's the language that bothers me. It's not so much the process. I spoke to Mr. McCormick. He's in Frisco. I talked to him this morning about it. The secondary issuer will be Bank of America. I do have a problem with Bank of America. I got a problem with all these money center banks. I got a problem with money in Texas, in Tarrant County specifically, going out of state on reissuance and being sold by these money center banks. There's plenty of issuers within Tarrant County that could handle $133 million, but the Hidalgo County Mission Corporation, which I'm down there quite often, I also called the EDC board down there wanting to know why they're the front issuer on it. Well, they've done some environmental bonds, so they have a process in place. And under the government code, you have to have a government entity issue these bonds. I get the process. But let me read this. It says, Republic Services Incorporated and/or one of the more subsidiaries or affiliates thereof. Doesn't mean Republic specifically. It could be affiliates or subsidiaries. Okay, it's very broad in base. Financing or refinancing capital improvements, site improvements, equipment acquisitions related to the borrower's solid waste disposal facilities and collections operations, including facilities. Let me get down to the important issue. Operations located at any one or more of the following locations. Within the language, Judge, they can actually refinance debt. Now, if you're a private entity and you take on some debt that you become upside down because you can't increase due to cost, so you run out and get some tax-free money to pay off taxable money or liabilities that you already assumed. We don't know where the money's going. And so I looked at the documentation for specifics to our $13 million. It's not in the packet. What are they going to do with our $13 million? That's what I want to know. Are they going to do a subsidiary? Are they going to buy new trucks? Are they going to pay off old debt? Just what are they going to do? And I don't want to be giving corporate welfare out because they're upside down in the business model. Well, we don't know that. I'm not saying they are. I'm saying potentially based on the way the notice is written, it could be. And I just want to make sure that we understand where our $13 million, if we sign off on this today, how it's going to be used. Thank you.
Thank you. Following Ms. Geiger is Linda Hanratty.
Republic Services' request for $133 million in bonds from the Mission Economic Development Corporation is to be used to finance infrastructure and capital improvements to solid waste collection and disposal operations at 9 facilities, including only 1 in Tarrant County. That would be the Republican facility located on Mosier Valley Road in Euless. The Tarrant County bonds would be for $13 million. What exactly will the improvements be in Tarrant County? I can't tell from the agenda documents. Why is Tarrant County joining Mission, which is at the Rio Grande border, and other facilities for bonds for our local solid waste collection? Why is Mission in Hidalgo County the umbrella for all $133 million in bonds? We need a lot more information. Thank you.
Following Ms. Hanratty is Geraldine Jackie Cox.
As a Tarrant County taxpayer, I am concerned about the possible environmental justice issue surrounding whatever Republic Services plans to do at 800 Mosier Valley Road. It is my understanding that this area was an early African American settlement and holds meaning for this community. The map shows a sanitary landfill already exists in this area. I understand that you've been told, to the public hearing, nobody appeared. What I want to know, solid waste disposal is important, and it is my understanding that the county needs more landfill space. However, this consented agenda item does not elaborate, as we've been told before, about how the $13 million allocated to Tarrant County will be used, nor does it discuss any potential adverse impacts on the surrounding population. I think that we owe it to the residents of that area and people concerned about that area, which holds meaning for them, to know exactly what Republic plans to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Geraldine Jackie Cox. I keep waiting for the day when this will be a body who seem to be the fiscal conservatives that you claim to be. When I find an item on the agenda that involves granting tax relief, is what it really is, revenue bonds, to Republic Services, Inc., and I look up Republic Services and I find that they are the second largest trash hauler, and they are a vertically integrated monopoly. They own the local facilities for collection, and they own the disposal facilities. They own it all. When I see something produced in the handout that appears to have been created by the lobbyist for a little economic development corporation. I mean, the letter, sir, there's a letter in support of this package addressed to Judge O'Hare, and it was dated in April of 2024. And it appears that all the staff work for this is based on two little numbers. One is a total of $133 million for issuance of bonds for a bunch of counties, and one is a total of $13 million for Tarrant County. But I don't know what they're going to do with the $13 million. What will Republic Services do that is worth $13 million worth of foregone revenues from the county in order to earn this bond money? How much money will the bond issuer make, and how much money will the lobbyist for the bond issuer, which is the firm Bracewell Patterson, how much will they make? What's the budget for this? What's the purpose? Why are we doing it? I'm asking that you pull this from the agenda today and provide us with answers to those questions so that the rest of you can evaluate realistically, is this in our best interest or not? I realize that as a liberal, I tend not to be in favor of corporate welfare, and it seems to me like a $13 million donation of revenue bonds from the county is kind of corporate welfare, which might have been spent on something like child care or education or health care or filling the potholes on Granbury Road. Commissioner Brooks, that's becoming priority with me. There's one that threatens to swallow my car daily. So let's find out where we really need the money, please. Thank you.
All right, that's all that we have signed up to speak. I would ask the court, I would like to get some legal advice regarding this project and bonds before we take a vote. So is there any reason we can't get that today in our executive session?
We can talk about it at the advice of council since it's been agendized on the other portion of the
Okay. Anybody opposed to that?
No.
Okay. All right. We'll move forward from A5 at the moment and may bring it back after executive session.
Judge, you do have a motion and a second on the floor on this item right now.
So how do we?
I withdraw the motion.
Okay. There we go. All right. E1 is pulled off entirely, or E1 was just pulled off consent?
E1 was pulled off consent.
Okay. All right, that takes us to E1.
Sir, I believe we have C1 first.
What?
I believe we have C1 first, unless you want to take it in a different order.
Yeah.
Where are we?
Budget.
Appropriation?
Oh, yeah, I got you. Yep, you're right. Budget and risk management, discussion of possible action related to fiscal year 24 appropriation adjustments.
Yes, sir.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments, or discussion? All right, seeing none, please cast your vote. All right, that passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Which now then would bring us to E1. And what is E1? Criminal Courts Administration fiscal year 24 contract between Tarrant County and MHMR of Tarrant County for the in-custody batterers intervention program and youthful offenders diversion alternative program. Anybody here to speak to that item from the staff? All right, seeing none, do we have any questions, comments, or discussion from the court? Do we have a motion from the court?
Move approval.
All right, we have a motion to approve. I'll second that item. Any discussion amongst the court members before we bring up a speaker? All right, our speaker on this item is Nan Terry.
Good morning. Thank you. First off, I support this contract, but this is not the first contract between Tarrant County and MHMR that lapsed at the end of the previous fiscal year. Last time the work continued. I hope the work continued with this contract since the contract lapsed on September 30th, 2023. I hope the workers continued to get paid and continued to do the work. I am confused that the county requires staff to go to the county commissioners before accepting donations or before staff can apply for a grant application. But we allow contracts like this where, in essence, we're donating time without going before the court. How many more contracts are continuing past the date of the signed contract, and why? I wouldn't do business with an agency that doesn't pay its bills, would you? I said this the last time. I am appalled that the judge and the commissioners are allowing this to happen on your watch. Under no circumstances can this practice be considered good governance. How many more contracts are out there like this? Let's wrap this up before next fiscal year begins. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second on this item. Any discussion before voting? All right, seeing none, please cast your vote. All right, passes unanimously. F1 is held until after closed, which takes us to purchasing. I will make a motion to approve items L1 through 5.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve items L1 through 5. Any questions, comments, or discussion? All right, please cast your vote. All right, passes unanimously. On number 6.
Yes.
So I have a question for, a couple of questions for Helen on 6B. So the way, you should go there, oh no, you've got a mic, you're good. Whatever you want. Just to make sure this is totally clear to everyone, this RFP that you're wanting to do shows an estimated value, it's an annual contract, says estimated value of $381,600. You don't actually believe the number is going to be that high?
No, sir.
Okay. What do you anticipate it will come in at?
Anywhere between 120 and 150.
And that's for the initial purchase and setup. That's not an annual 120 or 150 hit to the budget?
No, sir.
Okay. The number 381,600. So with your number of it should be between 120 and 150, and the number that we see, 381, that's, I mean, on your low end, that's more than triple. Why does that number get put on this agenda?
I believe the IT department goes and gets quotes, and they put the high end for just in case on the request to submit bids.
By quotes, you mean they go solicit what the price will be for this from other companies before we've given permission to do an RFP?
They just look at the average cost. They don't go solicit, but they do have to get some information so they have an idea of what the cost is. So they ask various vendors what the cost is for the product. They're not soliciting them to do anything.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. Any other questions from the court members or a motion?
Move approval.
We have a motion to approve the permission to take bids and RFPs from Commissioner Brooks. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second from Commissioner Simmons. Any discussion? All right, please cast your vote. All right, passes unanimously. Next, we have Transportation Services, looking at the approval of the placement of no parking signs on Winscott Clover Road in Precinct 1. We had our public hearing earlier. I'll move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion there? All right, please cast your vote. All right, passes unanimously. Next up, we have appointments to boards and commissions. Do we have any appointments to any boards or commissions that need to be made? All right, seeing none, we'll move to this briefing item, update on work of the Election Integrity Task Force. Do we have anybody speaking to that?
Good morning, Judge.
Good morning.
So I was given a set of just specific questions. Would you like to ask them, ma'am, or would you just like me to give you the
No,
answers I've
just go
seen so
ahead.
far? Okay. So I was asked a couple of questions from Commissioner Simmons' office with regards to this briefing item. And I'll just read through the questions and then the information I have right now. So the first question was there a dedicated budget set up for the EIT, or Elections Integrity Task Force? I confirm with Helen that we do not have a dedicated budget that has been set up for the Elections Integrity Task Force. The second question is how many full-time positions make up the Elections Integrity Task Force, provide department's title and salary? So, to my knowledge, there are no full-time positions which are solely dedicated to the Elections Integrity Task Force. But to give you an idea of how it's embedded in two departments that I know of, which would be the CDA's office and the Sheriff's office. In the CDA's office, I believe there are approximately 3 attorneys that work on this. And those average, the grade is anywhere from a 72 to a 75, and the average salary of those 3 is $106,500. In the Sheriff's office, there's at least 1 investigator that works on the Elections Integrity Task Force. Typically, that is a 53-2 Step F. The midpoint for that type of investigator is $73,964. The next question I received is how is labor tracked against tasks associated with the EIT? I'm not aware of any separate tracking for cost of the EIT. That would be within the department since there's no specific budget set up for it. So I've asked that question, but I've not received any information back with regards to that specific question. How many complaints have had charges filed? According to the CDA's office, there have been 12 complaints which have been investigated, and as of today, no charges have been filed. In the Sheriff's office, they report that they've had approximately 70 complaints that have been received. And then the last item I was asked was the salary of one individual in the CDA's office. That's Glennis McGinney, and her current salary is $163,553. And I believe that constitutes the questions I received, ma'am.
So is Ms. McGinty, she's one of those 3 attorneys in the CDA's office?
That's my understanding, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And
she's kind of the head of the unit, and then there's 2 attorneys that get the cases referred to them for investigation.
Okay, so she's head of the task force or unit. Is she part-time?
No, she's a full-time employee. I believe this encompasses a portion of her duties, but is not all of her duties.
Okay. And 12 complaints to the CDA's office, 0 charges, correct?
That's my understanding, yes, ma'am.
And 70 complaints received by the Sheriff's office?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
What's the disposition on those?
I don't have any information on the disposition. The only other comment I got was that some of these, I don't know how many are still being actively investigated.
Okay.
But I didn't get a specific number on where they were with the disposition of the 70 complaints.
All right. And when was the task force stood up? When was it instituted? What was the date?
sometime last year. I'm sorry, I didn't have that. I don't have that specific information, but I can certainly try to find that if you'd like me to. I just don't have it available right now.
Yeah, well, that's okay. It's remarkable that neither the DA or sheriff are here to brief us, since this was their idea. This task force was their idea. They were such enthusiastic supporters of having this task force. So I expected to be briefed by them and not you, and I appreciate you trying to get the information. It seems, as the county administrator, you should have been able to get answers to 4 or 5 questions that we sent over. But listening to you go, I don't know, I can't get that information, is concerning, but not unremarkable. So we are approaching a big election cycle. We have dedicated funds and staff to this task force, and I just wanted to see if after a year it's been performing, or if it's necessary. With 82 complaints in a county of 2.2 million, it seems like a waste of taxpayer dollars to me. So hopefully at some point we can get a full update from either the district attorney or the sheriff on the necessity of this election integrity task force. I do know of a complaint that has been received because it's from my precinct. Would you happen to know anything about any complaints, particularly one involving the Mansfield Independent School District?
I do not have any information on any complaints with regards to this, since that's basically law enforcement functions. I'm not privy to active investigation details, if it is indeed an active investigation.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your efforts.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, any other questions or comments from the court members? We do have several people signed up to speak. I meant to make this announcement at the beginning. I will make it now. Just a word of warning, there will be no profanity from that microphone today or any other days as long as I'm here. If there is, you will be removed from the building immediately. So know that, you're warned. The speakers that we have, first is Billy Wilson. Following Mr. Wilson is Doreen Geiger.
Billy Wilson, Arlington, Texas, Precinct 2. Glad to see you. Ms. Simmons, glad to have you on board.
Thank you.
Wrong-headed. You've heard it before. The election was not stolen. Hyder Garcia did a good job, and Crystal Mason should not have been prosecuted. On May 15, 2023, Congressman Mark Veazey wrote a letter to the Department of Justice asking them to investigate the actions of Mr. Tim O'Hare. His concerns was that Mr. O'Hare, with the guidance of the Citizens of Election Integrity and True Texas Project, was engaging in election intimidation under the guise of election integrity. A couple of meetings ago, our district attorney, Mr. Soros, confirmed that his goal in appealing the recent Crystal Mason case was to send a message. We don't believe it's the business of the DA to send a message of intimidations to its citizens. Instead, it should protect its citizens by focusing on prosecuting those who break the law. Groups like True Texas Project, recognized by the Southern Poverty Law Center as an extremist group. What message are we sending to them? What message is sent when you do not act on voter irregularities like those exposed in Mansfield and Ms. Simmons was just talking about? We've heard nothing about that. The message that we get is that you're only concerned about certain people. non-political servants like Hyder Garcia, black women like Crystal Mason. We believe that the 2020 elections were the most secure in history. There is no need to waste taxpayers' dollars on an election integrity unit. We need to see you ensuring that voting is encouraged by its citizens without intimidation. We need you to speak for our Tarrant County citizens, not just your political groups. We believe that you are participating in voter intimidation. Prove us wrong.
Thank you.
Next up is Ms. Geiger. Followed, Ms. Geiger is Michael Bell.
According to the Texas Secretary of State's website, anyone with knowledge of voter fraud should report it to the Secretary of State's office and complete the Secretary of State's office form found online and submit it. Secretary of State's office can refer the complaint to the Texas Rangers for investigation. When I voted in the primary runoff, I took a picture of my receipt that I got from voting that stated voter fraud should be reported to the Tarrant County Election Task Force by contacting the Tarrant County Sheriff Office at, and the number. Shouldn't Judge O'Hare, Sheriff Wayburn, and the DA Sarles be required to abide by the state rules? I don't think sheriff's job descriptions in Texas include investigating voter fraud. Thank you.
Following Mr. Bell, we have Alan Turner Jr.
If it please the court, the Tarrant County Election Integrity Task Force was started over a year ago purportedly to investigate local election complaints. There's even an online form labeled Elections Integrity Complaint. Think about it. The intimation is that in Tarrant County politics, all the many, many years prior to the formation of this woefully dubious and highly superfluous task force, all of those years, the county elections lacked integrity. That's the intimation. How many years has the majority of the commissioners' court been Republican? As a matter of fact, back in November 22, when you were elected, Deacon O'Hare, the headline of the Fort Worth Business Press read, and I'm quoting, "Republicans still reign in Tarrant County." My point is that the formation of the task force was not birthed by dirty partisan politics. So besides the obvious public persecution and attempted judicial lynching of Crystal Mason, where is this rampant elections fraud? The very fact that there has been so little pushback on the very existence of a task force that was conceptualized to intimidate voters and suppress voters is scary. This bogus claim that this task force is needed to ensure fair election is based on a bald-faced lie. The task force wrongfully projects the poltergeist of widespread voter fraud that will subvert confidence in elections and dissuade voters from participating in democracy, including through mail-in ballots. There's simply no credible evidence of extensive voter fraud in Tarrant County. Let's just tell the truth and shame the devil. The real aim of this task force is to inhibit voter participation. This is a case of the emperor has no clothes. The social ethical problem inherent in the makeup of this task force is that it is helmed largely by elected officials, an elected county judge, an elected sheriff, and an elected DA. A county judge who receives a campaign donation from a contractor with a questionable track record and turns around and awards that same contractor with a multi-million-dollar contract. A sheriff who has had to cancel a contract with a private prison that violated state standards and fired 2 jail employees who participated in actions related to the in-custody death of Anthony Ray Johnson without following protocol and then having to rehire those that he fired. A DA who is so fixated on making Crystal Mason an example that he hasn't yet brought charges against those responsible for Anthony Johnson's in-custody death. These are 3 members of an election integrity task force. This is a blatant case of the fox garden.
Thank you. Your
henhouse.
time is up.
The cure is worse than the disease.
Following Mr. Turner, we have Lon Burnham. No, Mr. Turner? All right, Lon Burnham.
Good morning again, and thank you to the Commissioner for asking this item be on the ballot for discussion, on the agenda for discussion. I have helped hold the last 4 elections in this county, and I have helped post that notice about calling the integrity unit, and I have helped lay down on the table that people see as they come in to vote the suggestion that you call the county. But I just want to recall for you guys, it's fundamentally flawed that you would set up an election integrity unit that is headed by elected officials. Now, if we were truly interested in pursuing the concerns that we purport to be interested in, we'd have a nonpartisan public interest entity heading this up. But it's very clear to me, and even more clear after a public forum I attended last week, that that is not the intent of this integrity unit. Last week I was able to participate in a public forum on voter suppression. There were representatives there from the NAACP, the League of Women Voters, and LULAC. And by the end of this meeting, after we reviewed any number of things that have occurred, the general conclusion was Tarrant County, Texas, is the epicenter of voter suppression. Now, why would people jump to that conclusion? Well, one is crystal. I mean, obviously, this is a case of persecution against this woman. One is the whole concept behind the integrity unit and the rumors that fly all over the place that the DA's hire to do this job was promised an uncontested Republican primary, which didn't occur, and she lost the primary. But nevertheless, it's not the first time somebody's been lied to get them to do something that they probably wouldn't do otherwise. So the point of my message is this. You need to disband the integrity unit and recreate one that is led by public interest nonprofit organizations that believe in the right to vote, not elected officials that try to suppress the vote. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda, Tarrant County Sheriff's Office and JPS staff update regarding incident in the Tarrant County Jail.
Still good morning. So Sheriff's Department was unable to brief on this item as well. As I've done previously, I have the media release in front of me, which I intend to read into the record. We do have a representative from JPS here, Ms. Daphne Walker, who is their general counsel, and I believe she'll be making comments following my reading this into the record. So this is dated May 28th, 2024, reference a death in custody. On May 27th, 2024, Tarrant County detention officers found an inmate unresponsive in her cell. At approximately 9:15 a.m. on this same date, the inmate was examined in the medical area, refused any further medical treatment, and requested to go back to her cell. Just before 11 a.m., staff responded to a medical emergency when the inmate became unresponsive. John Peter Smith Hospital medical staff began life-saving measures and administered Narcan to the inmate twice. MedStar arrived and transported the inmate to JPS, where she was pronounced deceased. The inmate had been in custody since May 16, 2024. She was being held on a warrant out of the North Richland Hills Police Department for a charge of theft of property between $2,500 and $30,000 and a parole violation. The Tarrant County Medical Examiner will release the inmate's name and cause of death. All in-custody deaths are reviewed and investigated by Tarrant County Sheriff's Office jail staff, the TCSO Criminal Investigations Division, an outside law enforcement agency, JPS medical staff, the Texas Commission on Jail Standards, and the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's Office and the Texas Attorney General's Office. With that, if it's okay with the court, I'll ask Ms. Walker to come up and make comments from JPS.
Judge, Commissioners. I'm here as a representative of JPS in connection with the item on the agenda that Chandler was just speaking about. At the time, the inmate was in the Tarrant County Jail and ultimately transported to JPS via ambulance. And first, let me say that our hearts go out to her family and friends. The inmate was pronounced deceased at JPS following unsuccessful attempts to resuscitate her. As is true with any patient requiring emergency medical services at JPS, and out of respect for the family and her loved ones, there is no public statement that we are able to share about her care. However, should the family have any questions about the care that she received once she arrived at the hospital, we're happy to sit with them and answer those to the best of our ability.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, questions or comments?
I do. Ms. Walker, but before you take off, thank you for coming to provide us this briefing.
Yes.
I think it's important to hear from JPS because obviously y'all play a critical role in our jail when emergency situations occur and just daily providing healthcare services. So I know you can't say much, but in general terms, I'd like to understand what occurs when an inmate refuses medical care.
Well, it would be the same as anyone who has a right to refuse medical care. And obviously, if there's an emergency situation, we arrive to try to administer care. If a person is still responsive and does not want to receive that care, they do have the right to refuse it.
So is there some type of form they have to complete, or how do you just say, I don't want medical care? How are you, JPS, covered in the event, in an event like this? Somebody who refuses medical care, according to you guys, and then they die.
Yeah. Generally speaking, any interaction with patients are going to be documented in the medical record. So I can't speak specifically to this case, but that is generally what happens. Is we're going to document what's going on with the patient.
So notes, or do they have to complete a form?
Not necessarily. They don't have to. We can't force anybody to sign anything.
Okay. All right.
Do you have any?
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Our sheriff, again, refused to come and brief on this item, which should concern all of you, every citizen. He'll pick and choose when he talks to the media and who he gives an exclusive to, but the citizens of Tarrant County, I've heard your questions, I've heard from the family. I can't answer your questions. The sheriff's office can answer your questions. JPS can answer your questions. And of course, it's still early in the investigation. And again, I do appreciate JPS for coming down. But our sheriff is again absent. And I do have questions for him, just natural questions for me, and lots of questions from the community. One thing I would like to know, and I see we do have public speakers, so hopefully some questions will get answered or asked. They won't get answered, obviously, because your sheriff is not here. I'm very interested to know, and maybe JPS knows, I don't know, how long Chastity Bonner was in her cell before she was checked. Because the mother said to me that she was, her cellmate attempted to contact the staff for a couple of hours. So I don't know that. And so it would be good to hear from the sheriff's office on that. And what condition was Chastity in when she arrived at the jail? What time did she arrive? What was the staff at JPS told about her or her condition when she arrived? When will the family hear from the sheriff's office? They contacted the mother. She was driving, and while she was driving, she told them she was driving. She pulled over, and they told her Chastity was deceased. Since then, she has not heard anything from the sheriff's office. Is that protocol? Does the sheriff's office reach out to families when there's a death other than the death notification? So lots of questions, and it's unfortunate that our sheriff doesn't value our citizens, even our inmates, enough to come down here to Commissioner's Court and be courageous enough to take those questions from the public.
Anything else from court members? We have speakers for this. First is Lon Burnham. Following Lon Burnham, we have LaMonica Bratton and I believe Pamela Taylor are on the same form, but if you're both here, you're welcome to come up.
First, once again, thank you, Commissioner Simmons, for providing this opportunity for some public discussion about this concern. Almost 2 years ago now, I told the previous court I would not come and speak at every Commissioner's Court meeting unless there was a death in the jail. There have been so many unnecessary deaths this year. I want to talk first just a little bit about Ms. Bonner and the situation of previous deaths in the jail that involved, supposedly, we can't trust anything coming out of the jail at this point, but supposedly illegal drug trafficking within our jail. Now, some countywide elected officials like to go around and talk about the porous border in South Texas, hundreds of miles away from us. We have a porous jail with people dying because we do not have adequate management of this jail. I want to lift up to you what everybody in this town that talks about anything going on with county government knows. That partial video of Anthony Johnson definitely looks like some sort of homicide. We have a right to see the entire video. We have a right to know the truth. And so far, this sheriff has denied us that right. I'll make references back to comments about sunshine and openness in government. This county government is a failed entity when it comes to openness and accessibility for what's going on here. And finally, there's a moment of opportunity here. We have a failed jail and a recent retirement. We need to pursue a nationwide search for the next head of the jail. This next head of the jail should not be an internal hire. It should not be a crony with the same ideological predisposition of our sheriff. It should be a professional, nationwide search for a replacement to correct all of the ills that afflict this jail. I'm just going to end with the same lament that we've said many, many times, talking about the inappropriately incarcerated people with mental health crises. Campbell is still there. It is totally inappropriate that this person is being detained. I know of too many people that are being detained at length in this jail for their mental health issues and not receiving the help they need. Is Campbell going to be the next death in this jail because no
Thank
one
you. Your time is
acted?
up. Ms. Bratton, are you present? How about Ms. Taylor? Okay, next we go to Bishop Kirkland. Oh,
Hello, I'm Pamela Taylor. I'm Chastity Bonner's aunt, LaMonica's sister, so I wanted to ask a few questions. We haven't received any information on exactly what Chastity's condition was and why she passed away. We haven't received any calls from JPS or from the sheriff's office, and we would like to know if we'll be able to see records of her condition, what she was treated for, if she actually did, reject care, and who did she reject it from? Was it the medical staff at Tarrant County Jail? Was it at JPS? The young lady that was up speaking a minute ago, I couldn't quite tell if she meant that Chastity, refused care at JPS. I don't think she could have done that if she was unresponsive. And they said on the news that she was unresponsive for 2 hours. That wasn't just said by her cellmate. They actually reported that on the news on Channel 8, that she was unresponsive for 2 hours. So we want to know when our questions will be answered, and some of the questions that the commissioner asked as far as what was her condition when she was brought to the hospital. That's what we need, that's what we want. And then it was reported that she was given Narcan. We would like to know why. So we haven't gotten a full story from anyone. We've gotten bits and pieces of what sounds like things are just kind of being regurgitated from news reports, or maybe what's coming from the jail or what JPS has said, but we would like concrete evidence of everything that's being said. Yeah. Those are the questions, and those are our requests. Thank you.
Thank you.
So sorry for your loss.
Following Bishop Kirkland, we have Billy Wilson.
I've spoken to Chastity Butler's mother, Monica. She wants this court to know that her daughter was a person. She was a mother and a grandmother. Monica, as well as our village, have some tangible questions. How does an otherwise healthy 36-year-old Negro woman be incarcerated 2 months in Kaufman County, then is transferred to Tarrant County, complains of a backache in less than 2 weeks of her arrival in Sheriff Wilborn's jail, she is murdered? Shame on Tarrant County for thinking for one moment we believe the narratives of this obnoxious, antiquated, vicious facade of a system. Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles could see crystal clearly through this farce. I have a few questions that surface, and they may sound rhetorical. Why was a person given Narcan that had been in custody for 2 months? You mean to tell me there are drugs in your supposedly model jail? Why won't the sheriff come and be held accountable? Frankly, I don't blame him. He's in a system of non-accountability. Your magistrate, why are you the target of the legitimate anger of so many people? Perhaps it's your own blatant hypocrisy when you tell us if we're not in the courtroom to speak, that we'll be passed by. But when your homeboy come in, your well-wisher come in, you turn around and pick the paper up out of the trash. Let's call the people that look like me angry Negroes. But what about the good Caucasian people that come in here week after week and complain? I appreciate them because we don't just have a Negro problem, we have an institutional problem. People come here quoting scripture and talk about guys like the prophet Jeremiah, Isaiah, Ezekiel, and Daniel. Those were not passive, precautious, go along to get along type guys. They spoke truth to power. I cannot stop coming until the judgment bells tones for each of our county's officials. The blood that runs down Belknap into the cemetery requires atonement, including chastities. I will not cease to come and cry out the blood of Malcolm, Martin, and Medgar, exhumates from their tombs and said, Bishop Mark Kirkland, your silence is your proxy. King said, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in challenges and controversy. Miss Bonner, I will not stop ringing the bell for justice for your daughter, I promise.
Following Mr. Wilson, we have Michael Bell.
Hello again. I'd just also like to say Happy Freedom Month to everybody. Jail deaths, wrong-headed. We call for decarceration, not incarceration. The most effective thing we can do to decrease the jail deaths is to reduce the number of people that are being imprisoned. We would like for you to show some leadership by assigning somebody to be responsible for managing the interaction between the police, mental health, JPS, and the jails. Not sure what position that would be, but we need somebody. Somebody who could actually answer the questions that people have about what happened to their loved ones. Somebody should be able to give a coherent answer. Someone who understands the intricacies of the different departments and how they interact. Someone who can advise and act to correct obvious errors like IDD persons being placed in jail pending competency hearings when we know that they will not become competent. We believe we need a county public defender with a unit focused on citizens with IDD. Anthony Johnson should not have had to commit violence to get the help that he needed. We need counties to require the state to take custody of their inmates and the state to fully fund mental health facilities. Our county jail should not be the #1 houser of people with mental disabilities. We repeat our call. 1, proper placement of citizens with mental health concerns. 2, reduction of pretrial population by speedy magistration. 3, fully educate officers and citizens on the diversion program. Getting a lot of people saying they don't understand what they are. We need somebody to help explain it. Stop the imprisonment of low-level, nonviolent offenders. Work with our community for real solutions and not just try to come up with the answer yourself. What does it say? That those in power claim to be powerless to do something about our IDD problem. What does that say? Either you're incompetent or I believe you just don't care. Free Kyrie Campbell.
Following Mr. Bell is Harriet Harrell.
If it pleases the court, Lon Burnham has already said what I needed to say, and I thank him for that. While I'm here, just Robert Miller, someone who died from sickle cell anemia, even though he didn't have sickle cell anemia. Javante Myers, Anthony Ray Johnson, a Marine veteran, 31 years old. Chastity Bonner, 35 years old. Tarrant County Jail, of course, is a killing field, and something needs to be done.
Ms. Harrell.
I'm Harriet Harrell. First, I would like to begin by expressing appreciation to you, Judge O'Hare, for your State of the County speech outlining your commitment to a smaller jail population and more mental health services instead of a new jail, and your goal toward a new local state psychiatric hospital. We support that. Second, agenda item 12B. Look at it. Do you recognize how offensive it is that the death of Chastity Bonner, a human being in the county's custody, is referred to here as an incident?
Yes.
And how offensive it is that the sheriff has no respect to be here, no humanity. More specifically, recently, the family of Anthony Johnson, and they're here, expressed their outrage when they watched the full video of his death and realized the amount of time that elapsed before Mr. Johnson was first cared for by JPS workers. When the Justice Committee started this work with you 2 years ago, we were glad to find a thorough contract between MHMR and the county that the sheriff also signed. But there is no comparable contract between the county and JPS. There does not seem to be any contracted, coordinated standard of care or set of written expectations as to how these three entities, the jail, JPS, and MHMR, interact, coordinate, and/or prioritize their services. In Mr. Johnson's situation, for instance, what document identifies accountability? What protocols can you ask the sheriff to share with the public to demonstrate what all three entities did or didn't do to follow contracted standards? We've already seen 2 jail officers fired and then reinstated because proper procedures were not followed. Do the staff from the jail, JPS, and MHMR know how they are to interact with each other in an emergency? What is the expected time frame within which a jailer or JPS is supposed to care for an unresponsive inmate? Do we know? I would like to ask the county to carefully examine this lack of coordinated, contracted standards for service.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Peyton Jackson, no, we're not there yet. Announcements and comments from commissioners. Anything? Well, it's probably not going to take you to about another minute to get to the next public comments item. So, anybody have anything up here? All right, seeing none, we now go to public comments. The first person I have to speak is Peyton Jackson. Following Peyton Jackson, Bishop Kirkland.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Congress Rep. Jackson of District 33 to introduce Bill 1163, the T. Robinson Bill for workers' comp reform. Because, and I quote, "an unjust law is no law at all," according to St. Augustine. I'm currently 27 years old. By the time I am sworn in, I will be 28 and one of the youngest Congress reps in the state of Texas. On my campaign trail, I asked my neighbors, my voters faithfully, 1, what change would you like to see in your neighborhood? And 2, if you could make a change, one law, what would it be? I mentioned my age previously because I want all of you to know that I have a lot planned for my 30s. I mean, I sat down and I visualized it, but one thing that I could not fathom is being mutilated and disregarded after being given a lifelong disability by a company welcomed into this city by our leaders. I couldn't fathom that at the early age of 31, after being decapitated at the FedEx warehouse, Ms. Robinson was informed that OSHA came back with the conclusion that the belt that she was working on was built improperly. I couldn't fathom waiting for an emergency contact instead of the ambulance with pieces of my fingers missing. I couldn't fathom being discharged after they realized that the pain and the trauma that I had endured caused an active miscarriage that I would now be forced to carry out by myself. I couldn't fathom despising something as simple as rainy days or cold weather simply because the nervous system that I had been left with is beyond damaged, so damaged to now, because of weather, I feel like I'm being electrocuted. When you're cold, you get chills. Not me. I feel like ice is being chipped in my muscles and my veins. I couldn't fathom. I know that you can't understand, so that's how come I couldn't fathom how our leaders even allowed this to happen, but allowed it to be ignored. And yes, it was pre-union, but let's not pretend like there aren't companies operating in this county, in this country without unions. One being MHMR, and y'all celebrate them pretty often here. Simmons, you were just at one of their facilities, and Manny had them in his office. Have either one of y'all worked for them, actually? Because I urge you to go in as an undercover boss just to see how they operate before you hand out certificates or recognitions. I want you to experience firsthand the retaliation, the harassment, the hostile work environment, the sexual harassment that they condone on the 988 Suicide and Crisis Hotline. Y'all have failed.
Thank you. Your time is
protecting
up.
workers in Tarrant County.
Thank you. Your time is up.
I know. I can see that. You can call your next speaker.
Mr. Kirkland, and after him is Doreen Geiger.
Last Monday, we celebrated Memorial Day from the death of Crispus Attucks at Negro Man, the first death of the Revolutionary War, to Chastity Bonner. When will my people's precious blood stop making rivers down the quarters of American history? We worked your field and we built your infrastructure. America has shown more compassion for criminality to Hiroshima and Nagasaki than they have to my people. Part of the first world way propaganda is to wait us out, to figure that we need to moan and complain, but there will be neither rest nor tranquility in Tarrant County until justice rolled down like running waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Monday past, I made a promise to Mr. Anthony Johnson Sr. that we will fight to the end. When Mr. Crowns became our medical examiner for Tarrant County, he met with some of the gatekeepers of our village. He gave us his word that all of his rulings will be based on the science and not political pressure. Mr. Emmy, we need you to release the findings of the death of my brother Marine, fellow Marine, Anthony Johnson Jr. Now, if it is ruled homicide, which means death by the hands of another, we are demanding that these criminals get exactly what Ray Ray gets when he kills T-Bone. Ray Ray and everyone involved goes to jail for murder. The diocese members, you cannot have a murder and not have murderers. Mr. Crowns, please rule on Mr. Hale Roberts' death as well. Oddly enough, no one is talking about Mr. Hale Roberts, who died on Valentine's Day this year while we were out honeymooning. But to the Roberts family, it was more like the St. Valentine's Day massacre of 1929. I received this letter of retirement on February 1st, 2002, by direction of the 30th Commandant of the United States Marine Corps, General Carl Mundy, for all my years of service to our country. Never allow my verbiage to deceive you. I have given my blood, my sweat, and my tears. I've endured months away from my family. I've earned the right to speak truth to power. I will speak up for my little brother, fellow Marine, Anthony Johnson Jr. I vow to my brother to see this fight to the end. We took an oath as Marines, and the oath that we took was no man left behind. Once a Marine, always a Marine. Semper Fi, Anthony. Hoorah! Hoorah!
Following Ms. Geiger is read bills.
I have copies of the Vote Beat and Texas Tribune May 29th article. Texas officials compromised ballot secrecy as they increased election transparencies, and the May 30th article, top Texas election official acknowledges threat to ballot secrecy for each of you. Mr. Merritt has those for you. Channel 5 Television News reported this last night. According to a top state election official, our ballots are not secret. Texas efforts to increase election transparency have made it easier to breach the secrecy of the ballot and discover how some people vote. Recently, an independent news site published what is said was the ballot of former Republican Party of Texas Chair Mike Rinaldi, cast in the March 5th GOP primary. Rinaldi has neither confirmed nor denied it was his ballot. One candidate who lost her elections has demanded the use of sequentially numbered pre-printed ballots, which experts say could further threaten ballot privacy. This is one reason why it was a big mistake when this court voted to require sequentially numbered ballots. I want my vote to be secret, and I want your votes to be secret. Thank you.
Thank you. Following Ms. Bills, we have Janelle Johnson.
I'm speaking about the position of Tarrant County Sheriff. It has become apparent that filling the role of sheriff is too important to leave to the voting public. If we have to elect someone for the position, reduce the job description to the ceremonial political figurehead it has become. Then hire an experienced, capable leader with integrity and compassion who will protect all our county residents from the actual and fiscal bleed caused by our current criminal justice system.
Following Janelle Johnson, we have Sharon Hines.
Well, it looks like I'm back. It's been a month since my brother's death. A month, and we still have no answers. A month, and now the people who killed my brother are sitting at the house getting paid right now. A month since I've seen you guys torture Mr. O'Hare. I need you to look at me. You guys killed my brother. No, you need to listen. Mr. Wayborn has refused to see us, has refused and locked doors. JPS! Since JPS is here now, how are you going to sit here and tell us what happened?
I'm answering you.
You need to answer to the public.
Yeah, take me to Mr. Wayborn's office. Take me to Mr. Wayborn's office to release the video that you guys killed. I didn't touch.
He said remove her.
I'm walking around.
Walk her out. Hey, Ms. Hines. Following Ms. Hines is Merle Glasscock.
Unhinged.
Good morning, Judge O'Hara, Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner Simmons, Commissioner Ficus. If you have not been moved by the articulate and passionate speakers before me, I know what I have to say is not going to matter, but I just want to ask some questions anyway. I come before you again to speak for the dead. I come to speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. I'm here to ask if 60 deaths in 70 years, which is the Sheriff Rayburn's leadership, is that acceptable to the commission? It has been cited as above national average, so again I ask, is it acceptable to the commission? In 2024, there's already been 6 deaths in the Tarrant County Jail, and we are only in the 6th month, the 4th day of the 6th month. Is that acceptable to the commission? I just celebrated my 70th birthday at the end of May. But inmate Chastity Carday Boner died at age 35 in just 2 weeks in the Tarrant County Jail. I am double her age and she died at 35. Is this acceptable to the commission? I choose to come before you again to speak for those who cannot speak for themselves and to ask the county commissioners, is this trending number of deaths in Tarrant County Jail acceptable to you? If not, who's monitoring it? Who's being held responsible for it? Who's being proactive about stopping it? And who will continue to just accept it and expect the public to also continue to accept it? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Following Ms. Glasscock, we have Geraldine Jackie Cox.
I too come, as Ms. Hines has, to speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. And I thank you for knowing how important it is to listen to the public. Why is Kyrie Campbell still in the Tarrant County Jail? Surely nobody wants him to die there. Keeping him incarcerated will only lead to his death. Kyrie needs to be placed in a suitable treatment facility. What is happening now to Kyrie is inhumane. It is actually criminal to prevent him from having a chance to live. And why hasn't the entire video of Anthony Johnson's death been released? What are you afraid people will see? And exactly how and why did Chastity Corday Bonner die? She is numbered as the 6th death this year while in custody at the Tarrant County Jail. And why was the sheriff not in this room today? What is the real reason for Chief Eckert to be replaced? Many citizens of Tarrant County do not trust what is going on in the Tarrant County Jail. And I commend you, Judge O'Hare, for wanting to get the jail population down. I believe getting the mentally ill out of the jail into a facility with qualified people who could help them could help achieve our goal. And my final question, what action is being done to get the Tarrant County inmates who are now in the Garza County for-profit prison back to Tarrant County? My concerns have come from being part of a family riddled with mental challenges. But my experience is with those of white privilege. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Following Ms. Cox, we have Liz Badgley.
Judge O'Hare, others have mentioned our gratitude, that it is your intent to try to reduce the population in the Tarrant County Jail. There's litigation now before the court, federal court here, which alleges that the real problem, the systemic problem with the Tarrant County Jail is that the population outstrips the ability of the facilities and the staff to take care of it. And we get example after example of death. Perhaps the most distressing was the video that appeared on TV, and it was on my link to the Star Telegram. It was almost like a horrible tragic comedy of these deputies racing up the stairs, one of them pretty overweight, and he suddenly was there putting his foot on the neck of Mr. Johnson, and then Mr. Johnson was dead. It was very upsetting because it was symptomatic of an inability of the system to respond in a proper way. Why wasn't there somebody with authority to make that quit upstairs before the two jailers came rushing up to not fix it? What do we have to do? So I'm asking that you do a national search for a chief jailer, and I'm asking that you go forward with your efforts to reduce the population. I have suggested before that it seemed to me that we just shouldn't be holding many Class B misdemeanors in the jail, and that the overflow occurs because it takes 4 days to get a bond, and you just keep packing it with people who don't need to be there until somehow the extortion racket works and they come up with the money and the lawyers. I know that's a harsh way to put it, but that is how it looks. It looks like people are held there until they finally get out. Sometimes even after they've already posted bond, they're held for another day or two because something doesn't work right in the release process at the jail. We just have to do better than that. We have to do better than that. The level of grief, hurt, and anger is now almost intolerable. So please help us and do a national search and somehow get some compassion over there and some urge to get people out. Thank you.
Following Ms. Badgley, we have Chanel Johnson.
I am committed to fostering a culture within Tarrant County that not only celebrates faith, family, and freedom, but champions those core values. My mission is to make Tarrant County the safest, largest county in Texas, and to remain a place where the American dream is alive and well. Written by Mr. Tim O'Hare. I don't believe you've done anything, Mr. O'Hare, to prove your statements here. An American dream? For who? The largest county? 66 people have died in this largest county. Are you trying to get to 100 before you finally decide to do something? It's unacceptable. I've done my research. You know who you are. You know who sits behind you. You know you should see the video. If you don't want to release to the public, that's fine. But at least watch it so you can see how my brother was treated like a rag doll. Because I had to. I had to watch it the day before I turned 29, my birthday, with the images of my brother in my head of how he died. So all I ask, Mr. O'Hare, is that you stay true to what you wrote in here. Because you have a family. Make your family proud.
Thank you. Following Ms. Johnson, we have Chantel Taylor. After Ms. Taylor, we have Daniel Bennett.
Thank you. I'm the mother of Kyrie Campbell,
And I'm here to ask the DA to look into the situation of dropping the charges against my son so that he may receive the proper care that he needs. I'm asking the DA and all the commissioners here to look into the situation from a mother's point of view and from all the other mothers' points of view with their children that are locked up, to do something about getting them the care that they need as well. So I'm just humbly asking the DA to drop the charges against my son so he may receive care within the State Supported Living Center, and to do what they need to do to construct better laws into place so that we don't have to keep going through the same things over and over and over again. It's like a vicious cycle. Thank you.
Thank you. Following Mr. Bennett, we have Reverend Price.
My subject matter is completely different. It's going to be about the appraisal district. I was at the Mayor's Council meeting last night, and many of the mayors whom I do know, and I addressed the fact that we're getting a subcommittee at TAD together. The subcommittee will be choosing the next ARB members, Appraisal Review Board members. We just had the head of the Appraisal Review Board, the chair lady, quit yesterday suddenly. At noon, she put her resignation in. Now, there's a sickness at the ARB. That sickness has been there quite some time. I'll give you another instance. Back in 2021, a lady named Kathy Dunce, who was a 25 IT expert, took a job at TAD for health insurance. You know what her job was to do, Mr. Brooks, Commissioner? Was just to type in birth dates. Because their data was so corrupt and so wrong. She sat there for every month and typed in over 7,000 birth dates. Well, that went sideways too, and she quit. I can give you example after example after example. There's a cultural problem at the ARB. Not so much from those that are employed as an ARB member, it's those overseeing the ARB from the TAD side. That's where the sickness emanates from. And if we don't fix it, it's going to continue. Now, with the subcommittee being put together, I want people from the smaller entities, Dalworthington Gardens, Pantego, Lake Worth, you name it. I want them to have citizenry that will come forward, fill out an application, go before that committee, and become an advocate, not for the property owner, but for the process. We need representation from those that will demonstrate the courage to have a free mind and a free will and do what's right under the property tax code. We don't have that right now. It's because there's a sickness there. That's all I'm going to say. I've said enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Following Reverend Price, we have Nan Terry.
Good afternoon, Judge and Commissioners. I'm Ryan Price, the Senior Pastor of Broadway Baptist Church here in Fort Worth. And I wish to speak this afternoon in regard to Jail Chief Charles Eckert's recent retirement and to whatever plans the county must decide upon for finding his replacement. Chief Eckert seems like a nice enough guy, and I appreciate the way he will sometimes admit to an inconvenient truth. At the same time, I don't think the chief ever fully understood the depth and breadth of the problems within our county jail. In the end, that cost taxpayers millions of dollars and, more importantly, people their lives, including the life of inmate Anthony Johnson, Jr. The chief's departure offers the opportunity for the county to make a substantial change. Recently, Commissioner Ramirez released a statement saying that there are, quote unquote, deficiencies in how the sheriff's office releases information about in-custody deaths. I commend the commissioner for this statement and add that these are not the only deficiencies in policy and practice within the department. It is time to bring a greater degree of administrative oversight, best practice, and professional accountability to the Tarrant County Jail. A nationwide search for a competent jail administrator with proven executive experience and a history of mitigating critical incidents/deaths is essential. In the book of Acts, chapter 16, at the jail in Philippi, a wise and caring jailer makes a wise and caring decision that saves a lot of lives. We need greater wisdom and greater care within the Tarrant County Jail. And we need to look far and wide for a chief jailer who will provide them. The sheriff refused to show up today. Please, commissioners, demand of his office a professional search for a wise, caring, and professional chief jailer. Lives depend on it. They depend on the wisdom and care of this next person and the integrity of this search. Thank you.
Ms. Terry.
Good afternoon. I have a variety of comments during this time. I echo others who have come before you or before me regarding the judge's state of the county address, which included your desire to reduce the jail population. Thank you. I know several citizens who would be happy to discuss this matter with you or your staff. Thank you for filling the Public Health Director Department position. Manny Ramirez and I spoke about how important this position was for the county. Thank you. I, along with others, would like to continue to remind this court of Kyrie Campbell and other detainees who have intellectual or developmental disabilities, or IDD, that are being housed in the Tarrant County Jail. I urge this court to set a policy that these individuals diagnosed with IDD be transferred as soon as possible to a state residential living center, which would be consistent with the draft HHSC long-term state hospital plan. The two forensic state living residential centers are located in Mejia or San Angelo. The jail dashboard on the county's website does not have the number of detainees deemed incompetent to stand trial, or those enrolled in a jail-based competency program, or those waiting for a state hospital bed, or the number of the IDD detainees. In the past, the public received this information via open records requests. I commented on the draft state hospital long-range plan, and I would have included the number of detainees waiting for competency, but I didn't have the data. I hope the county commented on this plan. Would you like me to ask for these numbers via Open Records Act request? I doubt your staff would. Why not include this information in the jail dashboard? I, along with others, request the entire video of Anthony Johnson's last minutes be released to the public. The entire video. The family agrees with this request. Please release it. Along with others, I urge you to conduct a national search for a replacement of Chief Eckert. And lastly, I would like to use my remaining time for a moment of silence for the latest individual of a list too long who died without a trial or a judgment in our county jail. Her name is Chastity Corday Bonner.
Thank you. Do you have anything else to add?
Like my moment of silence?
We're not going to have silence for 30 seconds, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We next have, that's all I have signed up to speak. If you haven't, you can come up first. If you have not, if you did not sign up to speak but you would like to speak, we'll bring you up.
Good afternoon now. My name is Josh Lucas. I was born and raised here in Fort Worth, Texas, lifelong resident of Tarrant County. Today I'm going to read you an excerpt, summary of a story that I first read in college at Hardin-Simmons and Dr. Wesson Martin's English Lit class by Ursula K. Le Guin titled The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas, published in 1973. In her allegorical text, Ursula describes a town by the sea, complete with festivals and dancing, horse races and pipers piping. It was a merry town, except that maybe it wasn't so merry after all. Maybe there was more going on than could immediately meet the eye. She then introduces the reader that the entire wealth of the town and resemblance of joy they felt was all dependent on a small child suffering in a closet in a dark room under one of the public buildings. Maybe it was City Hall or perhaps the train station. And to live in this town, at some point, you must go down and see this child. Many people forget the child is even there. Some remember, but push it out of their minds. And yet, while some others walk away, they walk through the streets until night falls, they walk ahead into the darkness, and they do not come back. The place they go to is even less imaginable to most of us than the city of happiness. I cannot describe it at all. It is possible that it does not exist. But they seem to know where they're going, the ones who walk away from Omelas. There is a boy named Kyer Campbell sitting in a small closet inside of a dark room under one of the public buildings here in Fort Worth. Although he is 21, developmentally he is 8 years old, diagnosed with both autism and schizophrenia. I love my town too much to walk away. I refuse to walk away from Fort Worth. We've got to do better. Profanity, Judge O'Hare, is protected by the First Amendment. Obscenity is not. I find the neglect that we've given to people like Kyer in this town obscene. I find the suppression of our First Amendment rights by this court, by our DA, obscene. If you all spent 1/10 of the amount of time and effort that you put forward towards helping those in our jails who need the care that they deserve, perhaps Anthony Johnson wouldn't have died. Perhaps Chastity Donner wouldn't have died. Perhaps Kyer would no longer be
Thank
sitting
you.
in jail.
Your time is up.
Good afternoon. My name is Alan Turner, and I'm here to address why the need for the Election Integrity Task Force Unit. The Election Integrity Unit was designed to investigate any allegations of voter fraud in Tarrant County, yet it appears to have not found any allegations of voter fraud thus far. As an election judge myself, I can assure you that voter fraud is very rare in our local elections, but when there is credible case of fraud, one would assume and hope that this task force would swiftly investigate the allegations and prosecute those who would have committed the wrongdoings. On March 28th of this year, I and several community members submitted complaints to this Election Integrity Task Force unit regarding Mr. Angel Hidalgo. Mr. Hidalgo was our former disgraced and eligible Mansfield ISD School Board candidate for place 2. Mr. Hidalgo would go on to cast a provisional ballot in the March Republican primary, even though he was not a registered Tarrant County voter. He also stated on his provisional ballot that he did not have a valid driver's license, social security number, or personal ID. Proof of these allegations, along with other troubling findings, were all sent to the designated DA handling voter fraud allegations, yet the community has not heard any resolve to this matter. Voter fraud allegations should not be considered a partisan issue, yet it appears to be. Perhaps Mr. Hidalgo is not being investigated because he voted in the Republican primary, or because he was handpicked by our local corrupt school board members to run for a seat he was ineligible to run for. So he needed to prove his loyalty to them by fraudulently voting in the March Republican primary. Our community still needs answers. And even you, Mr. O'Hare, would admit that voter fraud is wrong. In fact, you stated, and I quote, "It's like bank robbery. Is it okay to have one bank robbery or 2? Is it okay to have one kidnapping or 2 or 3? So there shouldn't be any voter fraud, and that this task force will go a long way towards deterring it." Well, it doesn't appear that way to us. We in our community are wondering, when fraudulent Republican voting individuals are exposed, when will this task force act? If it will not act, then it needs to be disbanded. And our taxpayer dollars that are being wasted on this ineffective unit need to be redistributed to other programs that would be beneficial to all citizens of Tarrant County. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Charles Bills. I came to talk about Keori Campbell. We all know his story, but I should reiterate that he was never a threat to public safety. He was in a group home. He had some sort of incident, and they had to subdue him, which they did. And one of the employees sustained some minor injuries, but refused to press charges. And this group home is willing to have him back once he gets out of jail. I know the only people that have the power to take him to get him out of jail is either the magistrate judge or the district attorney. But I do implore you, Mr. Tim O'Hare, the most powerful person in the county, to use whatever clout you have to try to convince either of them to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm here to speak about the death of my son, Anthony Johnson. It's been almost 2 months since his death. I know my daughter said a month. No, it's been almost 2. The family, we still have not heard from the Texas Rangers. Can you believe that? 2 months. The jailers and medical staff are still employed. Has the court seen the unredacted video?
No.
If not, why? Because there's an additional 9 minutes where you're going to see how my son was dragged around like a rag doll, and he received no medical treatment. I heard JPS was here. I hope they're listening because they need to see that video as well. And I can almost assure you, the people that worked or supposedly were saving or trying to save my son will not be employed. I did some research after I left here the last time, and I realized Mr. Ramirez is my commissioner. I am his constituent. I'm sorry that he's not here today to hear my words. But I expect Mr. Ramirez to work with Ms. Simmons to view the video, as well as the administrators at JPS, so they can see the lack of care by their staff. I also expect Mr. Ramirez to join Ms. Simmons in asking for independent investigation of this jail facility, since there has been yet another death just last week. We, the family, will keep coming to this court until we see change. I am fully aware that we are in an election cycle. The family has no trust in this system. Retirement of Eckert gives us no comfort. And I now have to fund his retirement as a taxpayer? This jail is a slaughterhouse. The sheriff must go, and I will be watching what Mr. Ramirez does going forward. And for all of you that have been asking for that video, be careful about what you ask for.
I'm going to speak about negligence leading to the death. This year, 2024, we've had tragic deaths with the custody of the Tarrant County Correctional Facilities. These deaths have seriously neglect and mismanagement under the supervision of Mr. Sheriff Wayborn. Failure to ensure safety and frequent and unexplained fatalities indicate a systematic failure to maintain the safe environment and for individuals in custody, raising significant concerns about the procedures and oversights within the correctional facilities. Lack of accountability. There has been no insufficient transparency and or accountability regarding these incidents, eroding public trust in the leadership of our correctional institutions. Need for reform. The community demands immediate reforms to ensure the safety, the dignity, and the well-being of all individuals in custody. New leadership is essential to implementing these necessary changes that we're requesting and restoring public trust and confidence in our city of Fort Worth. we're asking that someone please take the time to go down and look in on Kyrie Campbell. The mother has asked for the charges to be dropped against him. The young lady who he accidentally assaulted because he has an issue has also asked that the charges be dropped against him. I'm not sure if the young man has any other criminal court records or anything, but he actually needs a facility that will help him with his mental illness, not a cage that treats him like an animal. Judge O'Hara, you have a beautiful and loving wife. When my brother had a stroke, I didn't know her, and she showed up every morning for a week and brought me food and a Bible. Now, I don't know how she relates to your capacity as it relates to emotional and sympathy, but she thought enough to just do that, and she didn't know me. You don't know Mr. Kyrie Campbell, but it would be nice for you to release and or submit the release papers to have this young man released and put into a facility that could actually help his mental issues, opposed to being treated like an inhuman animal inside of a cage that he does not deserve to be in. It was an accident. He has mental issues. And with that being said, he couldn't control his actions and the things that he had done at that moment. But we as a community, his mother, we have pled since December to please. It was an accident, an assault, an accident because of his mental incapabilities. Please take the heart, the time, and read into it and do what is needed to bring this young man back to his facility that would actually help him, opposed to incriminate him and harm him even more. Thank you.
I didn't sign up to speak during this period, but there's something that just does not rest well with my soul. Some of you know that I'm very active with Religious Society Friends, and most of our time in worship is in silent prayer. Nan Terry was just denied her First Amendment right to spend a time in private prayer or public prayer here. Virtually every time I come to Commissioner's Court, I'm subjected to non-inclusive prayers by narrow-minded Christian nationalists. That does not sit well with my soul. In other faith traditions, they may not sing, but they chant. And so this is my prayer for this Commissioner's Court. It's called Kyrie Campbell. Kyrie Campbell. Kyrie Campbell. Kyrie Campbell. Save this person's life.
All right, we are now going to go into executive session. Please remain seated while I read the following. The Commissioners, you're out of order. The Commissioners Court will now recess the open session and proceed to closed session to discuss items exempt under 551071, 072, 074, 076, 087, and 0725 of the Texas Government Code. We are now in recess.
We have a quorum present. Let me go see if Commissioner Fields.
have all these stores and
I think to go to it to the extent that it's available. Generally, you shop with potable water. I'm not sure that there's any of that available. And half, I think we're in the, I thought we're in the half that has. This is the fourth day.
I know, it's like not fixed.
That's a major, lot of main breakages.
All right, we up?
Yes.
We're live?
Yes, sir.
Like when it's live, is like the cameras on us? Or do they wait for me to?
It is live. They flip from executive session back
Gotcha.
to the regular, and that's how we know we're live.
Gotcha, okay. All right, we're back from executive session with two items to possibly take action on. First item is A5, which was the potential adopting of an order related to the issuance of solid waste disposals revenue bonds. We had a discussion over that. I'll second it. So we have a motion and a second to adopt this order. Any discussion? All right, please cast your vote. All right, passes unanimously. And the next item is item F1, which is to consider approval for outside counsel to file a notice of non-suit on behalf of Tarrant County in the multi-district litigation in Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, EcoDiesel marketing, sales practices, and products liability litigation. Do we have a motion there?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion to authorize counsel to file that notice of non-suit without prejudice. I'll second it. Any discussion?
Just a question, why do we have to hire outside counsel to do this?
Well, we hired the Baker Woodring Law Firm 7 years ago to file the lawsuit.
Okay.
So they're the ones who are
We've
gonna,
already got them.
they're the ones representing us in the lawsuit.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, I do believe. Any other questions, comments, or discussion? All right, seeing none, cast your vote. All right, passes unanimously. And with that, thank you for watching and being here. We are adjourned.